Crossing the United States to his native South Africa, Nolan continues to push barriers and inspire people to inspire themselves. And you could be next. Join Nolan's 7-day online groundbreaking program called Obstacles Make Me Stronger, aimed at teaching you how to overcome any obstacles you may face. Break barriers, be innovative, and take control of your life. For more information, check out Obstacles Make Me Stronger, now on Udemy.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. My name is Nolan Pillay, and I am your host today, and it's my pleasure and my honor to welcome Jason Holzer, my soul brother, to the show, Inspirational Journeys Through Life. Now, Jason is the co-founder of 4D Athletes and a globally recognized leader in the areas of education, coaching, and leadership. Jason is also a best-selling author in the field of post-traumatic growth and resilience. His book, Shattered by Suicide, Renewed by Resilience, has reached thousands of readers globally and is a bestseller. I would suggest that you go and Google this book and Google Jason Holzer and just listen to that short clip about what he says and what he's gone through. Now, with over 12 years of experience in coaching and teaching, Jason understands what it takes to develop and inspire others to live their purpose and help others to become the best version of themselves. Jason's background also includes experience in urban and private education, coaching at the middle school and high school level, and writing a best-selling book. In 2019, Jason co-founded 4D Athletes and developed world-class content for parents, coaches, and athletes. Parents, if you are listening, and coaches, you got to listen to this podcast, and you got to get in touch with Jason as well. It's all about helping them to develop their leadership and life skills and to thrive through modern day challenges. His life mission is to create a world where anxiety, depression, and suicide are irrelevant issues in our global society. Jason, once again, welcome to our show, Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. It really is my honor and privilege to have you on today.
Nolan, I'm honored and humbled to be here as well. Thank you for having me on the show. I've admired your work from both, afar and, in different groups that we've been a part of, and just excited to be here today.
Cool. Thank you. So, Jason, can you tell us in about 2 minutes a bit more about you? I know I did read your bio, but just give us a little bit more about Jason, who Jason is.
Yeah, growing up, if we want to start away from the beginning, I grew up in a small town, rural area in the middle of the United States in Missouri. My dad was an electrician. My mom stayed at home with us. She was a caretaker. I loved sports growing up as a kid. So, basketball, baseball, football. I loved watching and playing, being around my friends. And, that's a lot of my childhood was like working hard, with my parents, doing things around the house. So they were very adamant about, values of like giving your best effort. My dad would take me on different things to help him, whether it be like we lived on some land. So whether it be like, labor work or, helping him do some projects around the house, whatever it is. And so, the values of faith, the values of hard work, all those kind of things were instilled in me from a very early age. And so I give my parents a lot of credit. They did their best with what they knew. But again, unfortunately, whenever I was 17, like I mentioned, whether it was work-related stress or you name it, but my dad ended up taking his own life. And that, from somebody who was a rock, a leader, one of my first coaches in sports as well, very involved, loving, kind person, for him to be here one day and gone the next, that was tough, quite honestly.
I can imagine, and this happened in 2003, and you were still 17 years old. That's pretty young to lose your dad at that age as well. I mean, somebody that you really look up to. I must let the audience know, I listened to the video on Jason's website, on Jason's YouTube channel early on, and after about a minute and a half or so, I found myself tearing because I know Jason for just over 2 years, and it's the first time that I decided to listen to this video, I did not know how he grew up. But if I look at him today and how he's turned his life around, of course, losing a loved one is never easy for anyone, right? But the thing is, at some point, we've got to pick up the pieces and move forward as well, because our loved ones would want us to move forward and not be in a depressive state or a sad state all the time. Right, Jason?
Yeah, and the more I've learned I've done a deep dive on studying the mind and why we do the things we do. And, I've learned that one of the key things that I've done is forgiven my dad, because what I've come to realize is that he wouldn't consciously want to take his own life.
Yeah.
There was a suffering within him. There was something that was going on that he just either didn't know how to express it, because 2003, mental health, all that kind of stuff was very taboo to talk about. And it's getting better, but that was a sign of weakness if you showed oh, I'm struggling or that kind of thing. And so from my understanding was he bottled up so much that his thoughts were causing so much suffering that he felt like that was the only way for him to escape the things that were going on within. So that's where I've decided to use that as a story, forgive my dad, do the deep work of forgiveness on that. But now being able to use that as a platform to say, hey, look, just because things happen to you don't have to define you, and you can still learn from those things, learn from those hardships, and how can they make you better, and how can you use that to help other people as well?
No, I like that. You see, it's turning that painful moment that you've been through, and you just got humanity at the back of your mind on how you can help other people to get through situations like this. And I can tell you, being a person that also attempted suicide at some point, it's never easy. And of course, you bottle things up and it reaches this kind of boiling point where you think that this is the only way out as well. So I fully understand. Jason, going through all of that as well, you must have picked up some good practices that you had learned or picked up along the way that got you through this. Would you mind sharing a bit of how you worked through your trauma?
Yeah, I had a great community of people around me that were supportive. But the one thing I would say I learned the most, and I've just learned this more recently, is the importance of counseling and therapy, and why that matters. Because these people have a great background on how to draw things in a way that maybe you are unaware of, that give you a release of different things that help you understand and maybe unpack some things that you are, just like you said, not fully aware that things are going on, or why you're doing things a certain way, or why things aren't working out for you, or you name it. And so, I would recommend, again, we all go through tough times in life, but having somebody there that you can, bounce things off of. Yeah. They can ask you questions to help you dig deeper, whether it's a coach, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a counselor, whoever it is. Have somebody in your life that's going to be, kindly honest with you, but also listen and observe and hear your tones and how you're saying things, and help you weave through some of that. Because the greatest game we can win, and I'm really involved in sports, but the greatest game we can win is winning the game within. Yeah. And that's, because that's where a lot of our pain and suffering comes, is from our thoughts, emotions, things that we don't understand that are really causing us to, be held back, whether through fear, whether through previous experiences, those kind of things, for us becoming the best possible version of who we're supposed to be.
Wow. I'm so glad you mentioned so many good nuggets there and points as well. If you look at 2022, a lot of people are going through a lot of mental wellness issues, right? It's a big topic, but a lot of people don't want to reach out and speak about it. So what Jason has mentioned is, there are people available, people that have been through similar situations like this, people that can help you, people that will guide you on how you can do some shadow work, or how you can dig deep within yourself and ask these real questions as well. I know, Jason, me growing up as well, I didn't have a mentor or a coach or anyone available. We had to go through life, and it was all about survival, right? You had to figure these things out on your own. And I guess you're losing your dad at 17 years old. You also had to figure this out, although you had a good community that was there supporting you. But a lot of the work that you needed to do was within yourself as well. So I like that you mentioned you got to win within first, right?
Yeah. I always say, life is a game. You got to win the game within, right? And like you said, for a while, I was trying to figure it out on my own. And it was a struggle. I really struggled with overthinking a lot. I struggled with like, am I enough? Because after my dad passed away, I blame myself. Some of like, what could I have done differently? The stories start to swirl in your head of like, man, does that mean like I'm not enough in these areas? And it starts to spill over in certain areas. And then all of a sudden, like your self-worth, your level of deservedness, starts to dwindle, and you start to settle, and you start to like, oh, I guess this is just how life is, when you got to realize like that, whether you believe in God or whatever, there's a higher intelligence, whatever your belief system is, there's something that is above and beyond us that can guide us and lead us to our greatest version of ourselves if we're willing and open to be able to listen and to receive where our guidance is trying to take us.
Yeah. Be willing to listen and be open to it as well, because that's what is going to help us to transform into being the best versions of ourselves as well. So really, really valid points as well. You've been through a lot of trauma, right? What would you say is post-traumatic growth for you?
For me, it's becoming more and more aware of that the events in your life, they happen to you, but they don't have to define you. Mm-hmm. And learning that, when tough times happen, that they're just a season, and that when you face things and when you go full ahead, that they tend to dissipate quicker as opposed to trying to run from them. When you try to run from them, they actually expand. It's almost like a shadow. If you run away from your shadow expands. But the moment you turn around and face your shadow disappears. So it's a lot about the stories that we tell ourselves in our mind. It's also about facing our fears and facing those hardships head on. And the only way is through. You're only going to be able to come out better on the other side if you face them and go through them and do the deep work that needs to be done. Otherwise, you may be able to push off to the side, you may be able to ignore it for a little while, but it's going to come back worse, and it's going to come back and express it in certain ways that you didn't. Maybe it's anger, maybe it's alcoholism, maybe it's substance abuse, whatever it is, but they're going to find a way to express themselves.
True. So I take it, it's always good that no matter what obstacle or struggle that we are experiencing in life at the moment, and we all go through struggles, there's nobody that's perfect, right? Just by being consciously aware of what's happening to you is a good indication that it's something that you need to learn something from that experience. Don't regard any experience as only negative. Yes, it's something that's negative at the point, but see what positives you can get out of that situation so that you can start growing and learning from it and transforming yourself as well.
Yeah. And you never know when you might be able to be more relatable. You might be able to help somebody else. Like in the moment, sometimes it feels like, man, like this is not enjoyable. But and like for me, it was, I wrote my book like almost like 15 years after my dad had passed away. Maybe it was like 17 years, right? So sometimes the things that we go through in life, you don't realize like how much of a benefit they're going to be till it might be 10 years. It might be 5 years. It might be way down the road. But whenever you're able to look back, you're like, man, I went through that. I'm still here. I'm still doing well. Like you kind of feel like, oh man, I can get through anything. You know what I mean? And then I can also help people along the way. And to me, I see life as a training ground. Everything you're going through is preparing you for what's next. Like you have to go through this to get to that. There's no like skipping steps, right? You can't be born and then retire, right?
Absolutely.
You got to go through things.
I love that. And preparing you for what's next. Because of course, life can never be only downhill all the time, or uphill rather all the time. There has to be a point where it turns around and a lot of good will happen to you. So you just need to stick the course, stay grounded as well, and just prepare for what's ahead of you. So what a way to actually put it as well. So to the audience out there, this is Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. And today we have an amazing guest, Jason Holzer from Missouri. And we're talking about post-traumatic trauma and how we can actually get through life. So we'll be back in a few seconds, so hang on to your seats as we come back and learn more about transforming your life.
Crossing the United States to his native South Africa, Nolan continues to push barriers and inspire people to inspire themselves. And you could be next. Join Nolan's 7-day online groundbreaking program called Obstacles Make Me Stronger, aimed at teaching you how to overcome any obstacles you may face. Break barriers, be innovative, and take control of your life. For more information, check out Obstacles Make Me Stronger, now on Udemy.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. And today we have an amazing guest, Jason Holzer, who has now become a soul brother to me as well, sharing his story and his book about shattered by suicide when he lost his dad in 2003 as a 17-year-old. And as you can see, he's grown so much. He's a co-founder of 4D Athletes, and he's doing phenomenal work out there. Now, Jason, I know some of the work you do, a lot of the work you do is around sports and how you use sports to transform people's lives. Can you tell us a bit more about this and how you go about doing it?
Yeah, sports is so relatable to life. Like, it's always real time, always real time feedback. And it's something that it draws a lot of people in. Like right now, the World Cup is going on, and the whole world, pays attention to it. The Olympics, all these kind of things. And the cool thing about sports is that, you get a coach, right? You get somebody that to mentor you. You get people on your side to you learn how to build a team and try to accomplish goals. And there's so many things that we can take from sports, and we can transfer that and teach that to life skills, to leadership, to become better people through the sport. That's the power that sports has. And like I said, it brings people together in a way that not very many other things can or will do. And so there's an opportunity here, especially with, kids as young as like 6, 7, 8 years old, all the way through their mid-20s, to teach them, to guide them, to show them a way that they can use sports to develop themselves in other areas of life. So when they get done playing sports, they can transition and use those skill sets, resilience, preparedness, emotional intelligence, all these things, where they can go into anything else and be successful at it, and also be happy with it as well, because that's the key. Because there's a lot of people, that probably are very successful, but they don't really love what they're doing, or they're very happy with their life situation.
Yeah.
So it's got to be like happiness and success. They got to go hand in hand. Otherwise, it's, you can have all the success in the world, but if you're not happy about it, what kind of life is that?
No, indeed. And that's so true as well. You find the richest of people would have all the money in the world, but if you don't have happiness, what is that money worth? Nothing, basically. So happiness is much important. I like you touched on some vital points there. One of the points you spoke about in sport, and we all agree that sport brings people together, especially around the World Cup or any sport that's around there as well, be it basketball or athletics, the Olympics, whatever it may be. It does bring people together. I like the angle that you've taken now by using sport to actually grow or transform lives. And the part I'm liking is when you bring people together. This is humanity. And I'm sure when you're coaching the youth or whoever you are coaching at the moment, it's a mixed race of people, right? And you're teaching them this human value that no matter what race or religion or sex you are, when you come together, you're coming together as one, which is what we call human. But you're using sport to actually angle that and teach them the power of what humanity is about. I think that's
it's unifying, right? It's like at the end of the day, we came here to do a common goal, whether it be win a championship or win the game today or whatever it is. And you don't have to be best friends with people. You don't have to agree with everybody's opinions or whatever it is, but you have to find a way to cooperate with each other. You have to find a way to listen to each other if you want to be successful. And that's the cool thing that sports teaches, is that, we're all going to have different, opinions, thoughts, convictions, you name it, whatever it is. But the key is unity, right? The key is like, hey, I'm going to set aside maybe some of my agenda. You set aside some of your agenda to meet a common goal that's going to be best for everyone. Yeah. And I think that's one of the main things that we can learn from great teams, even from teams that don't succeed. Like, why didn't they succeed? What were like, was there, you know, and so I think there's so many things that we can just learn using sports as a vehicle, and it's a safe way to learn sports. Like, sports in general is a fairly safe outlet for people to, learn life lessons from.
Wow. And you cover it so well, right? Because what you're talking about is you're covering your soul, mind, and body all in one by just teaching it within sport as well. I love the unity part, because the world at the stage, there's a lot of dislike amongst each other. And what you're doing with your programs is basically you're teaching the people in sport to tolerate each other, because we all, as a team, we have this common goal that we're working towards. And if we learn to tolerate each other on a sports field, we can tolerate each other out of that sports field as well, right? And that's what we need in the world, is to understand each other better as well. Wow. Great work, great work. I actually like that. You also speak about leadership as well. Leadership is like quite important, and of course, it starts with sport as well, and it starts with yourself, because as a coach, I'm sure you're just starting off where you need to be. So, the way you bring sport in as well, you're teaching people leadership as well. Leadership skills are so important, because when I look up to somebody that I want to follow, I want to make sure that they're a good leader and I'm following good values, good strengths. Everything within them has to touch me somewhere in order for me to follow them. Now, when you're using sport to bring about leadership as well, who would not want to follow that team or that person as well, right? So,
right. Yeah, it's a great way to be an example of like service, right? So great leaders know how to serve. They know how to maybe, inspire others to meet a common mission or vision, right? That's what leadership does. It's not the old adage of like, I tell you something, you do it. It's more of getting people to, rally around a certain cause and make them feel like they are owners, they have ownership in that cause, right? So, because the old adage of like, hey, I tell you to do something because I told you to, that doesn't work. Like, or it might work for a little while, but it's not long-term, success, right? So, so as a leader, like, the best thing you can do is make people feel empowered, inspired, and make them believe themselves. And if you can do that, then they don't need to be checked on, disciplined, because they have that internal drive that you've given them by just being a great leader.
Exactly. And you make them feel included as well, right?
Yeah. And when you feel included too, you're way more likely to give your best, to, try new things, you name it.
Yeah. No, I like that. I love the approach. It just makes so much more sense that we need to spread messages like this throughout the world, and just start uniting people and getting people to understand what we're all about as well. And what better way to do it by spreading humanity in it and resilience as well. So when we talk about resilience as well, I mean, with sport, right? Let's say with basketball, for example, what kind of techniques do you teach your students when it comes to resilience? And especially in sport, right? Because sometimes we could be in a team that loses every week, and we're trying our best, etc. Well, how do you help them to keep stepping up and staying on this positive mindset, although we're still losing?
I think it's defining success. Like, what does success look like? Maybe because my first coaching job, right? I didn't win a game for 3 years because there was the kids that never played very much before. There was a school that didn't have a lot of resources, you name it. But the win was they were playing basketball. They were doing something productive with their lives. They weren't on the streets. They weren't like, in gangs, or they weren't doing things that, were not be very productive for them to be doing. So I defined winning was like, hey, are we growing and getting better? Are we, doing the little things to eventually that will lead to success? So I think it's even when you're not quote unquote winning on the scoreboard, you can be winning in other areas. So I think keeping that perspective of like, what areas are we winning? What are the things that, oh, hey, you know what? We actually outscored them this quarter or this half or whatever. So there was a point where we were, so how can we take what we did there and replicate it to where it becomes more of a throughout a whole game? So I think it's all about the perspective that you take, and it's reframing the quote unquote losing as learning. Okay, so what do we learn? That's a great learning opportunity. So I think that's kind of some ways that you can kind of flip that negative into a positive.
Wow. I love that. So every game, even if it's a loss or a draw or a win or whatever it is, you got to take some lesson out from it as well, because that lesson is your growth, because you're learning from
Yeah,
it. You're getting
developing
better.
a growth mindset, right?
Yeah, that's it. Wow. That's a growth mindset. That's a growth mindset. So, and it's powerful as well, right? Because we know in any sport, especially like basketball, for example, as well, there's always two teams that are going against each other. There has to be one person winning by points, but the other team is winning by other growth opportunities as well. So still, you are a winner, although the points may not reflect it as well. This comes to mind because recently I was a judge at a pageant, a deaf pageant, and of course, there's only one person that can use the crown. But I had to explain to the deaf contestants that no matter what, by you just stepping up and being here today makes you a winner already, because you're out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think it's reframing what it means to win, right? Yeah, like you said, there's only going to be one person that's going to win the trophy. Like, the World Cup, there's going to be one country that's going to win the trophy. But, the fact that you showed up, you gave your best, that's what winning looks like, because not everybody's going to be number one on top, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
So I think it's not having your identity attached to what you do.
Yeah.
I think is the key as well. So many people, especially in sports, their identity is wrapped up in like, how many goals did I score? How many points did I score? How well did I play? And they take that and make that their value. And it's like, no, that's sports. That's just what you do. It's not who you are. So detaching that identity piece from that as well, knowing that you're much more than what you do.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. You are much more than what you actually do. So, and it's a brilliant lesson for the youngsters out there, especially as well, because some people, if you're just losing a game, then they get so angry and so frustrated because they don't really want to see the growth that came out from that as well. They don't want to see that they could learn something from that. Everything is a lesson. Everything in life is teaching us something. Like you rightfully said before, it's preparing you for what's next as well. So Jason, while we're talking about leadership as well, right? So how can modernizing leadership be a solution to many of our worldly issues? And we have a lot of those issues now.
And I think the key is great leaders are great listeners, right? They hear the struggles, even from everyone, not just maybe from like their high level executives, but they actually go to where the people like boots on the ground, and they spend time with them. They make people feel like they matter. They make people feel like they're heard, right? And one of the basic needs of anyone is a feeling of like, I was heard. They may have to make the decision for what's best for everyone. It may not be something that I agree with, but at least I felt heard in the situation. And when people feel heard and feel like they're valued, then they're more likely to be helpful. They're more likely to cooperate and be willing to go the extra mile. And so I think a lot of it is just like, listening, but then also, giving feedback from your perspective, giving them opportunities like, hey, and a blueprint, like if you do these things, then this is what could be possible for you, right? Because a lot of people, I feel like they're going to their job or they're going on their team or whatever, and they're not really sure, like, okay, I think I'm doing a good job. I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to, but am I really? Like, they're left in limbo a lot of ways, right? So I think just communication, listening, like inspiring, those are all things that they make great leaders. And again, whenever you make people feel heard and valued, then the doors start really opening up for success and health and a healthy organization in general.
Well, so this can be used in corporate worlds, in any business.
Schools, corporations, businesses, sports. I mean, I think it goes across the board.
Yeah. There's three valid points that I made a note of. The one is I felt heard, especially when you're working in a corporate environment or in a small business or medium business as well. People want to feel heard. People want to feel valued, because they know they're in this organization because they're bringing some value to the organization. And this is where the leadership or the CEOs, etc., need to appreciate their staff, right? And I say this because when people feel unvalued in a workplace, etc., and they remove themselves out from there, what does the company have at the end? If all the people leave, they just got a building, right, with no people.
Yeah, the people are what make the organization, whatever it is, right? And there's so much great things that leaders can learn from people at all levels.
Yeah.
And if you're able to be willing to listen and take that feedback and think about, okay, so what can I use to make this better? Because if you create an environment that people love, that people want to be around, they'll actually probably take less money to stay there because there's a level of comfort there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you would want to do that per se. You actually probably would want to reward people on that. But people are naturally inclined to want to be in comfortable situations. And some people, money is not their most important priority.
Yeah.
It's a feeling of like security. It's a feeling of inclusion. It's a feeling of feeling heard and valued. That's what gets people to want to stick with something longer.
True. Feeling safe in that environment as well. So that's important because the moment we start shunning our employees, etc., then we make them feel less than what they are. And that's totally wrong. So this is a message to all CEOs or business owners out there as well. It's quite important that you treat your staff or your employees in a good, decent, respectable manner as well, because they would learn from you as well. And the other point,
quick disclaimer too, I'm not saying that you have to agree with everything people say. Like, at the end of the day, as a leader, you have to make decisions what you think is best for everyone.
Yeah.
But at least give them an opportunity to like express themselves. Yeah.
Exactly. Voice themselves, because now then that organization is not coming across as a dictatorship organization. It's more inclusivity that you mentioned, right? You're bringing people together, you're listening to what they got to say, because they might have some fantastic ideas as well. And if we don't include them, then we're losing out that brilliant idea that they have that could improve the business as well.
Yeah, you can even give them, hey, great, here's an opportunity. Yes. See what you can do with it. And you might have something evolve that you didn't even realize was possible.
Yeah. I love it. So make people know they matter. Absolutely brilliant. Jason, do you want to tell us a little bit about your book, Shattered by Suicide? I watched that clip. I mentioned it earlier on as well. I watched the clip that you did. It was, I think, 3 minutes, 35 seconds or so. And after about a minute and a half, I got very emotional. And I just wondered that, I know Jason for such a long time. I didn't know about his dad passing away in 2003 as well. And your book is written all around that. Although it took you 17 years or 15 years to write the book, eventually you got to write this book, right? Is this your first book or?
My first one, yeah, first one. First one I have written by myself. I'm involved in some group projects as well with certain things where I have my story in other places. But yeah, so Shattered by Suicide, Renewed by Resilience, How to Move Forward After Being Left Behind is, I took it from the perspective of me as a 17-year-old, what I went through a little bit before my dad passed away, during, and then afterwards. And then I didn't want to leave people like in like a low spot of like, oh my gosh, but I wanted to like give people like hope of like, hey, these are the things that I put in place in my life to help me heal, move forward, make the best of the situation. And I want to tell people too, like this, healing from trauma it doesn't happen overnight, but it will happen overnight. Like it's taken me, and I still have moments where like, Christmas is coming up, that kind of thing where like I have kids, like, the fact that I have moments where like, man, I realize that my kids are never going to meet their granddad. Right. And like, he's never going to be around on Christmas or their birthday or their big events. Those little things get to me sometimes, right? Like they still pull at you. So you're never really fully like, it never really goes away per se, but you learn how to accept it and acknowledge it. But it doesn't like derail you at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, you're human, you got to go through that as well, right? Especially around the festivities, etc. as well. And when your kids do say, where's grandpa or so, you got to be able to be bold enough to answer them and sit them down and explain that, this is what happened as well. So, okay. So any parting words for our audience, anything that you'd like to share with them?
I think I just saw this quote by Eric Edmey. It's just probably somebody you've heard too, but he's like, how you define success is how many days are you happy? I was like, man, that's, because I've heard great things of like, success is defined by getting better every day and that kind of thing. And that's true. But man, I found that so relevant because, if the happier you're feeling in life, the more successful you're going to feel as well. Right. Because that's like, they kind of like are go hand in hand in some ways. Right. Success and happiness. But, definition of success is just how many days are you happy?
Wow. How many days are you happy? Wow. So are we supposed to do this count at the end of the year, or should we be at the end of the week or daily?
I would say maybe it's like a quick reflection, like give yourself a number. 1 out like 10's the best one. And then like, because you can measure whatever matters, you should be measuring. So, and then maybe I should, okay, what happened today that made me feel happy? What happened today that maybe didn't feel happy? That could be just a great way to develop your awareness. And when you're not feeling happy, maybe write down 3 things you're grateful for, because gratitude is a great way to shift your, maybe if you're feeling down, kind of shift your attitude to more of feeling happier.
No, absolutely. And I like that you mentioned that go back and question yourself the days that you felt down or unhappy. What was causing it? What was causing that unhappiness as well? Maybe there's some shadow work that one needs to do there, or there could have been a trigger, whatever the trigger was for the day. Yeah. But I like the fact that you're saying question yourself, right? Dig deep and question.
Yeah, that's how you become more aware of yourself. That's how you become more aware of things that might trigger you as well. So if something similar happens again, now that you're aware of it, it might not get you as down. You might be able to deflect some of it, right? Maybe you might be able to, acknowledge it, let it pass quicker. Yeah. So I think it's just, and I think at the end of the day, like, it's just growth. It's just like trying to become the most aware person that you can a little bit more every day.
Wow. I love it. Conscious awareness. We got to get used to it. Jason, but a lot of people have not been exposed to the development that you and I and let's call it a small percentage of the world is exposed to, right? A lot of people don't really focus on personal development because they don't know what it's really all about as well. How do you spread the word of getting people to realize that we all are work in progresses and we need to be focusing on ourselves as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, life is a journey, and the best thing you can do to humanity is become the best version of yourself in a way that also helps others, in a way that also makes your surroundings better, right? So I think that, and what you'll find is the more that you're willing to help others, the more others would be willing to help you as well. It's like it volleys back and forth. The more that you're able to think of others, the more people will think of you. Yeah. And that kind of gets you out of your fear, out of yourself. Whenever you're like, oh, is this going to benefit other people? You tend to rally a little bit more. You tend to be able to like face some of those. I know, like, for example, if my kid was in, like, there's a car coming, I would jump in front of a car to save him, right? Just like because you're thinking of like what's going to be best for them. Yeah. So I think that's, and I think whenever you start to learn, like, you're here to grow and get better, that's like, the reason why you were here. You start to realize, like, okay, what is it? What is that? What am I supposed to do? What's my purpose? Yeah. How do I do it? What's it going to take? And you just keep with gratitude and and trust in the process.
Wow. Well,
great thing.
Those are awesome parting words about, finding your purpose, knowing why you over here as well. Gratitude is something that's so important. And people need to, if you are not practicing gratitude at the moment, please do it. Even if it's be grateful for a minimum of 3 things every single day. Even if it's the same thing, right? When you be grateful for waking up in the morning. In fact, every morning that you wake up, you should be grateful that you're seeing another day as well, because you got life again. So Jason, thank you so much for inspiring us today. It was such an amazing session today with you. How do people get hold of your book?
It's on Amazon. So if you just search it, Shattered by Suicide, Renewed by Resilience, it'll come up. It's also on Audible as well. So you can listen to it on Audible. and that's the best way to find it. Yeah.
Okay, no, great. We will be sharing in the text as well the links for Jason's book as well. If people need to get in touch with you for your coaching, Jason, how do they reach out to you?
You can reach out. 4dathletes.com is our website. So the number 4, the letter D, like 4-dimensional, 4dathletes.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. My personal name's on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, all those kind of things. So social media. My email is my whole name, Jason Holzer, the number 6 @gmail.com as well.
Perfect. So like I said to the audience out there, we will share Jason's details, but the easiest way, go to 4dathletes.com and you'll be able to have access to Jason and get him to do some coaching with the youth of today or wherever you are, even if you're in a corporate world. I believe that the strategy that Jason is using is absolutely amazing because he's bringing the soul, mind, and body all together in one. So who would not want to use sport to be fit at the same time and still increase your leadership skills, your resiliency as well? So thank you, Jason, once again for coming on our show today. We really are grateful and honored to have you on. And thank you to all our listeners and our viewers today as well. We do appreciate you. I know you're going to like this video. It's going to be on YouTube. So there's going to be a comment section. Please post your comments. Jason would be able to answer them for you as well. And on the right-hand side, there's a bell, which means subscribe. So click on that so that you can subscribe to our channel and get access to all our latest episodes as well. So once again, thank you for listening. This is your host, Nolan Pillay, from Inspirational Journeys Through Life with Straight Talk with Nolan. Cheers for now, and thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, Nolan.